Peter and Elaine, thanks so much for joining us. Criminal Record is getting great reviews. A lot of the attention is on this dynamic between your character, DCI Hegarty, and June Lenker, who played by Cush Jumbo. There's so much tension from your scenes together, and that seems to really drive the drama.
Yeah, I think it was quite interesting because Cush and I know each other. So we had to sort of come up with a way of putting distance between each other. And we sort of decided, because these, they don't know each other, which obviously acting is doing things which aren't true and which are fiction, so we should be able to do that as we're professionals. But we thought we would try, not that we really sat and discussed it, but we didn't rehearse anything. We knew all of our lines, we stuck to the script very faithfully, but we thought to keep it alive, let's not sit and rehearse it before we do it. Let's just do it and start filming us doing it. So what you see is kind of more or less the first or second time that we do it. So she's surprising me with things that with the way she's delivering things, and hopefully vice versa.
So it's a kind of authentic reaction.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it alive. Yeah.
And what's interesting about the two characters is pitting the old against the new, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting the two generations. They both come from very different backgrounds, different cultures. So you have this new cop coming along with kind of very different attitudes from the world that Hegarty and his team come from. But hopefully, although they seem pitted against each other and one might be good and one might be bad, I would like to think that it's a lot more complex than that. But you have to kind of keep following the show to see how many twists and turns it has, and not take for granted that one of them is good and the other one is bad.
Right, okay. And what's unusual, I think, about Criminal Records is that the two detectives are pitted against each other, because so often they're a team, aren't they? So yeah. I feel this makes it different and fresh.
Yes, I think there were, you could have taken the same material and sort of, they could have become pals, but Elaine in particular was very keen that they wouldn't become a team.
And you wanted to avoid that, and also we're seeing it through June's eyes, which gives it a different perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt from early on, and shout out to Paul Ruttman, the fabulous writer of this show. I mean, you can only sort of be this ambitious if you've got like the best writing. But from early on, I think I was very keen that you were waiting for these scenes between them to happen. And so if you sort of made them pals and made them sort of end up in a journey together where they're solving a case together, you turn them into a double act. And that feels a little bit, for me, a little bit old-fashioned at the moment. I preferred the idea that you're thinking what's going to happen next when they come head to head. And I think audiences do seem to be responding to that really positively.
Yeah, and throughout the programmes we see misogyny, we see racism, and this is rooted in reality, isn't it? Because the Met Police in London have been accused of this. Yes,
I mean, you can't, if you're trying to make a programme responsibly, not connect with those kind of themes if you're making a detective show set in London in the contemporary, now, we had to do it. It's just that it also, they're interesting stories. I'm interested in how somebody becomes so, if you like, misguided, to put it kindly, as Hegarty is. How does someone arrive at that place? How do you start, from a point of view of having a morality that makes you want to join the police force to help people, and probably see the best and the worst of people, and then get to where he is now? And then, as the show progresses, you will see us dig into that a bit more deeply.
I mean, these points aren't laboured, they're very subtle. And did you drew on Cush Jumbo's experiences? You got a lot of input from her, didn't you?
We did speak to Cush a lot about it, but I think what's quite important about those issues is that they exist in everyday life. They don't just exist in the police force, and I think that's what we were keen to capture. Just those all those moments where, and whether it's misogyny or whether it's racism or homophobia, where people say things and you sort of think, did I hear that right? And it's like half an hour later and an hour later, you're still sort of slightly brooding on it. And so it was to try and capture all those sort of little microaggressions that people feel every day. You know, it's a bit like, we were talking about this earlier, about things that push your buttons, for example, as a Scot. And one of the things that pushes your buttons is, you know, when you live in England, is posh people saying to you, I love your accent, as if you're supposed to be thrilled. You know, and you feel like saying, well, I love your accent too, but they don't think they've got an accent. You know, so it's sort of that stuff really interests me.
Yeah, and Hegarty's a really gritty character. You haven't played a detective before. What was that like?
It was great.
His favourite, I think it's in this episode that's on today, isn't it? Peter's very favourite moment was when he lifted the police tape and went under it.
Had you dreamt of that moment?
It never occurred to me. Well, then suddenly I turned up on the set and there was all these do not cross, and I thought, I'm crossing, and I'm going to go like that.
You're qualified to do
and
that.
Just, get me a cup of coffee as well. Like that. So getting to do those policey kind of things was nice.
And you know, Hegarty's a brilliant character, very dark, very close, very mysterious, and I found watching it that I'm as interested to find out more about his life as I am to find out what happens with the plot. So it's kind of...
You will.
Yeah. That really drives it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, because he's mysterious, and I think that is part of the pull of it, because you do, when a character's that enigmatic, you are drawn to know more. And of course, as an audience, you're savvy. You know that people aren't going to make 8 hours of television and not tell you a lot more about that character. But it's paced out very delicately throughout.
And also, it must be said, there is the statutory SWAT teams and guns and chases and all that kind of stuff that we expect.
It's a thriller.
It is a thriller.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the ambition was to make the best thriller we could, but that had a psychological kind of ambition to it.
Yeah.
That, you know, often with police dramas, I mean, I'm a great fan of them, but the detective usually at the end of the season is the same as he was at the start.
Yeah.
And that's what episodic television is anyway. Yeah. You just go back to the start, and each week you get the same thing again. But we wanted to make a show where the events of the show actually had consequences and effects on the characters.
Yeah, there are layers to it that I felt. You're married, Peter and Elaine. What's it like working together? You have worked together before, haven't you?
Yeah, but well, actually, we haven't worked together for 30 years, but. You know what, it was genuinely brilliant, you know, because we talk to each other about our work all the time anyway, because we trust each other creatively. So, it was you know, it was a tough show to make. You know, it's 8 hours shooting in London. It was a 23-week shoot. Yeah. It was hard, it was exhausting, it was exhilarating in many ways, but actually to be on that journey with your best friend in the world, I mean, what's to not love about that?
I know, you're still talking, I'm impressed. Some couples can't even go to supermarket together.
Because I think she's incredible, you know. People, because I got an executive producer credit on this show, and people say, oh, that's great, you're an executive. What exactly does an executive producer do? And I said, well, talk to my wife, because basically there was nothing. And she had an idea about why people withdraw confessions that they've made. Yeah. And then she pushed that idea, gave it to Paul Ruttman, kept pushing, and developed it. And the reason that it's on the screen and the reason that we're sitting here is because of this executive and my wife here, who's amazing.
It was a very collaborative process, but you know, whatever.
Scott and I, we're a current affairs programme, so we can't let you go without mentioning Malcolm Tucker. We're massive fans in the thick of it. How would that foul-mouthed spin doctor get on in today's Westminster, do you think?
I thought you were going to say to me, what would Malcolm Tucker think of criminal record? Because that's usually what happens when I go on a chat show. They say, what would Malcolm...
It's just variations thereof, isn't it?
Usually at 6 p.m. they say, what would Malcolm Tucker make of this? And you can't say what, because he swears all the time. So,
what would he make of Westminster? How would he fare in Westminster now?
Well, I find this situation there so bleak. That I don't find it funny. He wouldn't exist there because he's a genuinely comic character. There are comic characters there, but they are tragic. They're just leaning and dragging us into a very bad place. So, sorry to be a downer.
Yeah, lovely.
We want to be Malcolm Tucker, just be a laugh about the whole thing.
Peter and Elaine, thank you so much for coming in. Really enjoyed Criminal Record.
Thank you.
I'm hoping there's going to be a second season.
I don't know. It's very satisfying as one season. We'll see.
Okay, well, let's hope so. Peter and Elaine, thank you so much for joining us on Scotland Tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.